were talking about this earlier today. When you read these, for instance, the Gospel of Thomas is older than Luke or Matthew, and it contains a whole bunch of stories called infancy stories, stories of Christ as a child and young man. They are the weirdest stories. And what does this word weird mean? It means that they have a strange vibration about them. And it is that strange vibration that caused them to be excluded from the canonical books. For instance, as an example, in the Gospel of Thomas, there's a story, since you happen to ask. Oh, I don't have it here. Well, anyway, it's a story about Christ as a young child in which several times he just zaps people dead who get in his way. There's another story in the Gospel according to Philip, where Christ, he and the apostles are going or moving from one town to another, and he becomes hungry. And he approaches a bush at the side of the road, and he says, "Make thou food." Nothing happens. He says it again, "Make thou food." Nothing happens. He says it again. And the final line of the incident is, "And he destroyed it with fire." Now, so we see there, you see, an alien Christ, a Christ that we can't relate to. But also you have to remind yourself how dulled our ear is to the Christ that we do know. For instance, I'm sure if you're into this at all and you're familiar with the famous the gospel passage where he institutes the Eucharist. "Take ye and drink, for this is my body and this is my blood, which is being shed unto the conversion of many, for the new and never-ending covenant." This hit like a bombshell, and it even says in the Gospel's description of it, "And many drew away from him." At that time, I mean, that was too much. Preaching that you should eat the flesh and drink the blood of the teacher, just people said, we're checking out on this. It's gotten too weird. Now we've had 2,000 years to smooth it all out and explain what he really meant and how it's okay, and it's this wonderful, beautiful, symbolic statement of theophagia, etc., etc. But how about it when it was raw, and you were there at the table and this rap went around? It would be, I think, quite peculiar. It's interesting that when the Franciscans reached the mushroom cults of central Mexico in the 16th century, and they said, "What do you call this stuff?" And they said, "Oh, we call it Tiananacatl. It means flesh of the gods." They were appalled, and immediately the Inquisition went to work, and everybody who would admit to that was put to death because it was such an appalling notion, and yet it was an exact formulation of the Eucharistic mystery. The first thing I'm going to read is just a small portion of the Gospel of Thomas. Now this comes out of that body of Gnostic literature that is most closely related and competitive with Christianity. This is from the document I mentioned, which is older than Luke and Matthew, and is in an uncertain relationship to the Q document from Qumran. The stories of Thomas the Israelite, the philosopher, concerning the works of the childhood of the Lord. I, Thomas the Israelite, tell unto you even all the brethren that are of the Gentiles, to make known unto you the works of the childhood of our Lord Jesus Christ and his mighty deeds, even all that he did when he was born in our land, whereof the beginning is this. This little child Jesus, when he was 5 years old, was playing at the ford of a brook, and he gathered together the water and flowed there into pools, and made them straightway clean, and commanded them by his word alone. And having made soft clay, he fashioned thereof 12 sparrows. And it was the Sabbath when he did these things. And there were also many other little children playing with him. And a certain Jew, when he saw what Jesus did, playing upon the Sabbath day, departed straightway and told his father Joseph, Lo, thy child is at the brook, and he hath taken clay and fashioned 12 little birds, and hath polluted the Sabbath day. And Joseph came to the place and saw and cried out to him, saying, Wherefore dost thou do these things on the Sabbath, which it is not lawful to do? But Jesus clapped his hands together and cried out to the sparrows and said to them, Go. And the sparrows took flight and went away chirping. And when the Jews saw it, they were amazed and departed and told their chief men that which they had seen Jesus do. But the son of Amas, the scribe, was standing there with Joseph. And he took a branch of a willow and dispersed the waters which Jesus had gathered together. And when Jesus saw what was done, he was wroth and said unto him, O evil, ungodly, and foolish one, what hurt did the pools and the waters do thee? Behold, now also thou shalt be withered like a tree, and shalt not bear leaves, neither root nor fruit. And straightway that lad withered up wholly. But Jesus departed and went unto Joseph's house. But the parents of him that was withered took him up, bewailing his youth, and brought him to Jesus, and accursed him, for that thou hast such a child which doeth such deeds. And it goes on. Eventually he straightens the guy out, but not before he zaps 2 more people dead. So it's an example of you see, what the patristic fathers did was they gathered together all of this literature, and they had a set of ethics that they wanted to canonize. And so they eliminated everything which did not fit with that. Material such as this. This, by the way, is the apocryphal New Testament, the M.R. James edition, which is indispensable for this kind of thing. There is enough material to suggest that Christ was someone's follower, and that what he was saying had been said a generation earlier by someone else of whom we have no trace. And, this is hot, hot stuff, because it just cannot be that way if you're Orthodox. And, but anyway, this was what Dick felt about Pike, whom he knew very well. And the Transmigration or Transformation of Timothy Archer is an excellent book to read to see how modern churchmen have dealt with this. It's scandalous that the Nag Hammadi library is not more widely discussed, because it represents the strongest doctrinal challenge to Christianity in its history. There has never been anything this explosive, because it casts such doubt on the moments of the origins, and such doubt on whether or not we have any contact with the career of a Galilean who was the son of a carpenter, and so on. It just seems to explode the entire foundation of Christian hermeneutics.